Think about how our Cambodia team feels. They're all just about recovered from jet lag, and I'm going to invite them all up here because really part of our message today is really just coming back to you as a church. You entrusted us with some monies. That was your cue, guys, to start working your way up. I forgot to kind of punctuate that. But Matt and Michelle and Tony and Kat, if you come up and join us. For those that are new, we've had a relationship with a group called Steps of Justice for quite a number of years. Our connection there, Phil Cunningham, who runs Steps of Justice, will actually be here with us next Sunday. So we'll get to hear an update from him as well. So I won't talk too much about Steps today. But one of the things that they were able to put together was a trip to Cambodia for us and a couple other teams and groups. So there was actually a big batch of us. And just wanted to talk about that a little bit today because these folks fundraised and spent some of their own time, treasure, talent to go over and spend a couple of weeks in Cambodia just seeking to be a blessing. And you also entrusted us then with some monies to go over and deliver those as a church to be a blessing. And so I just want to follow up on that as well. That was my first pun for the day was, as you look at the image closely, it says Reflections on Cambodia. And
we had a few of those on the
I know we're going to need a mic. Ben's getting that there, but just a few. Just I'll give you some highlights, and then each of them share actually just a little bit of their story and their experience. We stayed at the Billabong Hotel. It was a hostel and hotel, so there was a lot of interesting young European folks staying in as we traveled as well. Every day we would get into these tuk-tuks and we would go around to various places that we were exploring and serving and helping with. Of course, we're rolling around in some amazing traffic, which was pretty breathtaking to behold. And the traffic laws there are don't get killed. That's about the only one. And of course, we did enjoy also, as some of you may have noticed on Facebook and other things, some great food. So this is where I was told I had to be really careful not to dissuade anyone from next year's trip. So let's put up that seriously, though. Here was the normal food that we ate. Actually, quite incredible food. There was only a few of us crazy folks who tried the tarantulas and a few other things. But it was a really strange contrast, too. And we took a ferry across from Phnom Penh, where we spent a bulk of our time and kind of looked back. You can kind of see just the contrast of old culture and then this massive city in the distance. And yet so much of the country still impoverished and broken from the conflict and things that happened at the end of the last century. Very, very strange contrast, kind of all over. In fact, when we first arrived in Korea, this is what we found in the airport. Traditional instruments being played but accompanied by dancing minions. We had no translation, so we had no idea what was going on there. But then as you look at Cambodia and you see the boats and you see that contrast, but then you begin to zoom in, what you also see is just real visual signs of the wreckage. Michelle will mention that in just a minute. But as then you look even closer, as you zoom in even closer, you see little glimpses of beauty, like that pretty little shoe floating in the water. And so you see this country of contrast, recovering from conflict, just seems devastated, and yet there's these tiny images of beauty when you actually get to know people. And so, as we look closer, I figured, Matt, why don't we just start with you? And we might need to guide the slides a bit as we're able, but why don't you tell us a little bit about our first few days?
Well, we got there midnight on Sunday, and got up Monday morning, and we went in for a briefing, and said, the first thing we want to do is kind of introduce you to where Cambodia has been. And so the very first day, we went to a prison in the city called S21. It used to be a high school. When the Khmer Rouge were there, they no longer needed schools because they closed the schools. They killed all the intellectuals down to the point they would examine the bridge of your nose to see if you had indentations from glasses, because you didn't need glasses unless you could read, and if you could read, that was a death sentence for you. So we went to this prison. They talk about the heat and the humidity and the travel, And the emotional impact was the hardest for me. So we went to this prison where they took meticulous records and tortured over 14,000 people. And then after that, with the exception of, I think, 7 known people, they took them to the killing fields and killed them. And that was very difficult for me until Michelle and I went to the museum at the killing fields and found out that they not only killed the government workers, almost everybody in the army, everybody in the schools and colleges, they also killed their wives and children. And I tell you that, when we had a briefing that night, I don't remember it because we had to talk about, some good thing we saw that day, some bad thing, and something that would stay in us. And all I remember is my mind in chaos. Just the pain of not only all these people, but women and children that had nothing to do with it. And I'm gonna pass it on now because I don't know if I could have went on if it was like this day after day. But when it gets to Kat, I think she's going to talk about some of the redemption that's going on now and just what made it possible to go on. But before that, my wife has something that she wants to talk about, just a little personal story that is also, I think, quite uplifting.
Well, as you can imagine, I have a heart for handicapped people, which reminds me to thank you for your prayers. I was healthier than some of the teenagers, and God enabled me to be sure-footed, which was amazing, especially being the grounds we walked on. I didn't fall once. Well, I fell on the train. We were here, though.
When we got back to Seattle, it was at the airport.
I met this older lady at one of the schools we went to. And she was crippled, I think, with arthritis. She was badly crippled. She could barely walk. And she would sit outside of the worship service we were having and just watch. And I walked up to her. I was using a hiking pole to keep my feet from stumbling. And she looked at it. It was pretty rad. She looked at her bamboo stick, and she kind of indicated that she might like to have my walking stick. And God had already prepared my heart that that might happen, and so I willingly gave it to her. But I asked for her bamboo stick. And she was kind of confused, but gave it to me. And I used it the rest of the time. I'm going to put her name on it to remind me of her and to pray for the handicapped people. I learned there that the handicapped people, like it used to be here, are ignored. They're treated like trash. And I think there's a picture of trash to show you. It was everywhere. There would be beautiful condos or whatever they were building, apartment buildings or something, and right in front of them would be just this, piles and piles of trash everywhere. But you hardly saw any disabled people. They were all shoved off to the side and ignored. We saw a couple wheelchairs being propelled by the person in them right in the middle of the road with the traffic. There's this one woman that has her face badly burned, and she runs a little store thanks to steps. And we supported her and bought everything we could there. She said that she's struggling, her business is struggling, nobody wants to go to her shop. So we met a lot of disabled people that were selling trinkets and trying to survive. God really showed me that this country is still in a state of chaos and neglect, but it's changed just in the 2 years since Bill had been there. So he said that it's really progressing quickly. And so we have hope that with that, the disabled people will eventually be addressed.
So one of the main things that drew us to this particular trip was the idea of helping finish building a home for someone that's been working with Steps of Justice there. So there's a national gentleman named Simon who has been driving a tuk-tuk for Steps of Justice. He works with YWAM and neighboring missions, and he himself has a small mission that he's trying to get started, which is a medical clinic. The medical quality there is atrocious, I'm going to say. And so just having simple things like getting lice treatment for children, prenatal care for the pregnant women, those sorts of things, and that's what Simon is hoping to step into. And what Steps of Justice has helped him do is purchase a new tuk-tuk, which we had the pleasure of riding around in. He was our favorite driver. And also they've been working to help him build a house. He was able to get a piece of land from his family, and the mission that he's working with is called Children at Risk, and they help children and mothers, but they also then build houses. This, I believe, was house number 43. So Simon's house was number 43. You'll see some of the construction of it. When we got there the first day, this is what it looked like. It's basically a big box. There's a small second floor. It's made with clay bricks with cement put on over the bricks. So that was the first day we got there. There really wasn't a whole lot we could do that day. And then one day later, that's what it looked like. And then the next day, the roof was up. And that house cost $3,000. And so the money that Refuge put together, the offering that you sent us was the $1,000, we were able to actually buy them a security gate for the front of the house, that lovely big opening. They're going to have a security gate there because Simon has a wife and 3 children. And even though he knows people in that village, theft is a big problem. So your offering was able to buy him a gate. We actually then took up a small collection while we were there as well to get them something that they wanted, not just something that they needed, because we do believe that God likes to bless us with both things that we need, but also things that we want. And so your money went toward buying them a refrigerator, which it was wonderful when we told his wife that a refrigerator was coming. She was so excited. And then they went off in the tuk-tuk and got the refrigerator and brought it back. I don't know how they got it on the tuk-tuk, but and it was on sale that day. Wow. It was like an extra $75 off, so they got a new refrigerator, they got a security gate, as well as we gave the rest of that money at the dedication. So might be difficult to see a bit, but you'll see James, and then the gentleman next to him is Philip, who runs Children at Risk. Oh, sorry, not Philip, Tim, I apologize. Tim, who runs Children at Risk with YWAM, and then the gentleman with the shirt on that says Do Justice, that's Simon. And so they invited us to their house dedication, even though the house wasn't fully completed, but the fact that we were there and had given so much to it, they wanted us to be part of the dedication of that. And so then after buying a security gate and a refrigerator, we still had some money left over. So we gave that to Tim as a down payment on house number 44. So that is...
So in addition to the house building, we were visiting a lot of ministries that are working with kids that help give them the English language is a powerful tool for employability. So working with kids, helping them to understand the love that Christ has for them was really powerful. And we had the opportunity to visit a number of different community centers that are working with kids, working with women who are moving out of the sex trafficking world, doing a lot of pretty amazing work with very little resources. And one of those was the Arakat Community Center. We took that ferry across the Mekong River and and visited the little village there that you saw the boats from earlier. The community center is run by a guy named Tim, who, different guy named Tim Fisher, is a German of the old school. He's just a lovely guy who loves on this community and in a powerful way. He does not try to learn the Khmer language. He's trying to get them to learn English. And so he just walks into their homes and starts jamming them where they're out of line and engages in the most remarkable form of communications. And we had the opportunity to do a prayer walk with Tim that was quite powerful. Without having their language, he's got a couple of the guys who are coming along, and their English is passable, or at least fairly functional. And we had a chance to pray for them, and he had gotten them jobs in the city, and one of the guys had decided that vacations were an important job benefit that his employer wasn't aware of. So probably commencing after every payday, his attendance waned and lost his job. So as we were there, Tim jammed him pretty remarkably, and in a way that as I look at Wayne, I think of how we jam our 12 and 16 and 18-year-old Boy Scouts. You kind of get in their face, and all the while, he's exuding a remarkable presence of Christ and love. And it was really touching to me, just the way they responded. They were very receptive. Even when we would walk up to a house and he'd say, "Hey, can we come in?" And there's this one guy there going, No. He goes, "Oh, come on in, guys." And he just walks up and he's all over loving on them. And it's not like, sometimes I give off this sarcastic presence, and it's happened. But this guy has none of that, and they all know that he truly loves them. And so when he is violating all manner of protocols and getting in their face, they know that they're being loved on, and it's just a powerful thing to see. So it was a remarkable ministry. One of the other slides, let's
slide before that.
A couple of these slides.
Can you back up one, Lila?
Let's see. Oh, that looks like
Wrong way.
wrong back. Okay.
There we go. Going back.
So
Keep going. No, that's the wrong way again. Backward. There we go.
Oh, yeah. The ability to communicate is pretty remarkable. Even if you don't have the language, there are ways of getting the message across. And so that was a pretty fun one that we saw as we were on our way to that community center. So, and then if you move forward to the young gal with the child,
There we go.
that's touched me pretty hard, because this is the target population that the people involved in sex trafficking are looking to. This young gal is a remarkable, bright, glorious kid, but she is ground zero. They will find a way to find her mom impoverished and loan her $100 with 100% interest. And so pretty soon that family will be in debt $10,000, where they could never hope to repay a debt of $20. And then that whole sex trafficking world engages and attacks. And so it was just beautiful, the work that they're doing to help protect the kids as best they can. but there's an awful lot of brokenness that's going on there, and this young lass sort of summed it up for me as how I was touched while I was looking at that particular ministry. And a lot of the ministries are just doing remarkable things, and it was really a powerful blessing to just see it and be a part of it, and see some of the things that they're doing to redeem the kids and the people.
Another place we got to go to was AIM. I think that's the one after. We all met as a group with people that are actually working against sex trafficking. In fact, for whatever weird reason, we don't have time just to share the story, but they've actually able to use their own SWAT team to work with the police. So this was a ministry. I mean, even their location was like we couldn't take a lot of pictures outside or anything because their location for both pulling the ladies out and then keeping them safe is they don't want to broadcast that. They showed us where actually they operate out of was formerly a brothel. And in fact, the brothel, you could even still see the signs of how it was used. Here at the top of the stairs, there is a door that can slam down, so it basically traps the girls in a floor. So that these 8 to 12-year-old girls that are being prepped and ready for the sex trade are trapped and contained, which is, then great if you have a fire or anything else, right? I mean, it's pretty much horrible. A lot of other stories and things we were able to do in the midst of this, to see beauty in the midst of all this crisis and tragedy, that we were able to do some teaching with the kids, blow bubbles with the kids. We not only got to put on our first performance for children, like a little VBS, which we found out we had to plan and execute in about 5 minutes. And I got to preach my first sermon through a translator. We also got to hand out water filters to another village, and just as we took those around and just saw the homes and the children and the families, there were just so many amazing stories. So many amazing moments where we could look at these people, and so many stories. In fact, we're talking about with consistory about having a Cambodia night. So for those of you, so many different stories of people we were able to help, so many different stories of just lives and stories that touched our hearts and experiences God taught us. And we do want to have and host sort of a special evening for those who'd like to, so we'll keep you appraised as we are able to put that together. But we want to thank you especially. I mean, we'll thank Phil next week, but all this came together because we as a church put it together. And these are the first 5 that have went, but I know some of you are already praying over next year. As Phil's here next week, we'll start looking at a tentative date and hopefully see who God might be burdening to go on a subsequent follow-up trip, as there'll be opportunities to do other things as well. So thank you for listening to us share. And if you would just join us in a word of prayer, just thanking God, we appreciate it. Father, we thank you for your goodness. That even as we walk through a place that really makes us put the world and our complaints and the things that frustrate us into a very sharp perspective. Changing our hearts in the way we pray, changing our hearts in the way that we see the world, changing our hearts in the way that then we yearn to be your instruments. Just thank you for the ways in which you've taught all of us through this trip and will continue to teach us as a church about caring for those who are in need. We thank you for your son. We thank you for his example, as so many different ministries we walk with over there are seeking first your kingdom, looking to Jesus in how to emulate the love and the service that they give and bring, and the sacrificial way of living that they have. God, I thank you that for the price of a couple of lattes, we kept pulling together enough money for formula for her baby. And God, as we walk with the relative luxuries that we have, help us to continue to learn to live and love differently in ways that reflect your Son. In your name, amen. Thanks, guys. Thank you, we thank you, guys.